Welcome back, Ceramics 1 students. It's Mrs. New here, and we are back with the cut top box project. And I want to show you my box. It's come a little bit of it's changed direction since the last video a little bit. It has been sitting on a board for a couple days, but I decided to go ahead and put a little ghost on the top, and he's going to be my sculptural handle. So I'm going to be able to grab him and lift him off. I also decorated the sides. I've got a couple little pumpkins. I carved in a little bat. I've got my jack-o'-lantern over here, so I'm definitely going with a theme here, if you can figure that out. Now, I went ahead and made sure that I slipped, scored, and blended everything on here that I was attaching. So my pumpkins are blended on there. I could go around here with a wet paintbrush and smooth out any of my scoring marks. Things are pushed on there really well. My carvings are nice and deep. And now it's time to go ahead and cut the lid of this box. So it is a little bit more leather hard. So meaning when I push on it, it's still wet clay, but it's more stiff. It has more, it's not going to squish around so much. And that's what I want. So I'm meeting the requirements. It's interesting from all the way around. It's got the sculptural handle. Let's talk about cutting the lid today. So there's a couple ways that you can cut your lid that are what I call good ways of doing it, right? Ways that will work. So number one is a gentle curve. So you could go around the box with a gentle curve. You can also do a key. Now a key is basically just a triangle. You need to make sure the triangle is pretty fat, pretty wide, but the triangle can point up or down. And then the next one I call it a little, it's like a little mouse hole. So if I was going along the side of a wall, this would be the little mouse hole, and then it would keep going. And that could also function as a key. So all four of these options are going to work well for cutting the lid. So these are the good ones. Let's talk about the bad ones, okay? These are ones that don't work. The first one I call the heart monitor line. Beep, 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 like if it was a heart monitor. This does not work well because you can't really figure out how to fit the lid back on. The next one that doesn't work good is the skinny triangle. If you make your triangle or your key really skinny, it's going to break off. It just doesn't work as well. And of course, this one's leaning over. And then this is what I call an undercut. So see how this part of the cut is thinner than this part? Well, you're not going to be able to fit that back on there very well. So all four of these are bad. Don't cut your lid like this, okay? What you do want to do when you are cutting your lid is put your project on a banding wheel. So I'm going to go grab that. And then you also want to use a fettling knife. So I'm going to show you that as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take my project off of the wear board and set it onto a banding wheel. This will do a couple things. It will elevate the project, but it's called a banding wheel because if I go around the project and if I was to hold a needle tool still, it would make a band around my pot or my vase or my bowl or whatever I'm making. So I also need a fettling knife. So the fettling knives look like this. They are not sharp. They're not going to cut you. This is the blade side, and then this is the back of the knife. But they're really good for cutting clay. And unfortunately, this one's a little loose in the handle. There we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out which kind of cut I'm going to do. Am I going to do a key? And I'm going to take my needle tool, or I could use a sharp pencil, and I'm going to draw the line. Now maybe the key works into your design somehow. So for instance, maybe I could cut my lid around and then my key could be part of, you know, this stem of the pumpkin. Or maybe my key could, you know, come around and I could have like a gentle curve that would be part of this jack-o'-lantern. So kind of look at your design and figure it out. Now you could have more than one key. Also, when you're planning your lid cutting, don't cut it in the center. That's where you put your two pinch pots together, but it's not necessarily why you want to cut your lid. You want it to be up more towards the top so you can actually fit something in your box. So I kind of like that for the key there. I think I'm just going to go kind of with that curve of my jack-o'-lantern. And remember, if I make a mark and I end up not liking it, I can always just take my finger and blend it out. I'm not cutting anything yet. I'm just planning out what I'm going to do. So I think for the rest of this, I will just do kind of a gentle curve. When I'm ready to cut, I'm going to switch to my fettling knife, and I'm going to kind of set it on the banding wheel, which might help me. I'm going to push the knife in until I feel like I am into the hollow part of my box. And then I am going to just gently, smoothly cut my lid. Okay, the banding wheel is going to help me turn this around. Now, what I don't want you to do is to seesaw this. Unless the clay got a little bit beyond leather hard, you shouldn't have to go like this. I want you to do a smooth cut. Okay, think if you had a birthday party and someone asked you to cut the cake. You wouldn't want to get in there and start sawing the cake. You would want a smooth cut to make a nice cup of cake, or slice of cake, not a cup of cake. Cup of cake would be good too, but you know what I mean. All right, so I'm struggling a little bit because my box got a little bit dry, but I'm still working my way around. And if I mess up and I'm not exactly on my line, that is okay. The line is simply a guide, but now I can feel I went all the way around, and now I can go ahead and take my lid off. So let's go ahead and see what we've got going on here. You can see I've got a lot of marks from the fettling knife. So I'm going to go in here with my finger and smooth that out. I want that to be a little bit more smooth. I could also take a wet sponge and smooth that. Now when I'm doing that, I don't want to mess with the shape of my lid too much because I do want it to fit back on, but I also want to smooth it. If I have something a little bit bigger like my ghost, I might need to go in here and add a few little holes. So I'm going to put a little venting hole here, and if it's really thick, I might need to get in there with a loop tool and actually scoop out some of that clay to make sure it's not too thick. Remember, we talked about things being not too thick and not too thin. So I'm going to spend a minute on my lid, and then let's look at the box. First of all, the rim here, again, it looks a little weird. So I'm going to take my time, use my finger, I could use a wet paintbrush. Mine's got a little bit of slip on it. I could use a sponge, and I'm going to use my craftsmanship. I want to blend the top of my box so that when someone opens it up, they don't go, ew, it's all gross in here. Now also, way inside, I can see where I slipped and scored my pinch pots together. So I want to get in here and I want to smooth the inside. Now, I'm also going to grab a loop tool. I got to go grab one from the tool shelf here, but let me keep smoothing my rim here. And then I also want to maybe scoop some of this out. So if my pinch pots were pretty thick, which mine were, let me go grab a loop tool and I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. I'm just going to scoop out a little bit of that clay and thin out the walls of my box just a little bit. So here's the loop tool. It has a loop on one or both sides. And I can get in here and I can hollow this out, kind of like a jack-o'-lantern or a pumpkin. It's fall when I'm making this video, so you can see I'm excited for the fall season. But I'm going to go in here and just kind of scoop out a little bit of this. I can hollow this out a little bit more. I don't want it to be too thick. Also, this is helping me smooth the inside here. Where I put the two pinch pots together, there might be some yuck down in here. And you don't want someone to open up your box and be like, ew, what is all that in there, right? You want it to be nice on the inside, just like it looks nice on the outside. So after I do some smoothing and fine tuning to the inside, and after I smooth the edge here of where the two pieces come together, then I might be ready to put this on the greenware shelf. Now, first of all, I got to figure out how it fits back on here. How does it fit back on here? Come on now. Oh, there's my pumpkin top. Okay, there we go. Now, before I put it on the greenware shelf, first things first, I need to carve my name into the bottom. Otherwise, it might not get fired. So I'm going to at least put my first initial and my last name, or if I can fit it, my full first and last name. And I could even put the period number on here of when I have my ceramics class, just to be sure that I know that it's mine. If I still have some yuck down in the bottom, another thing that works really well is kind of a stiffer, this is kind of a stiffer paintbrush. I can get out any extra pieces, or I can use that to smooth down in there if it's hard to get your fingers down in there. And then before I put my lid on, especially if this part's pretty wet, what I'm going to do is lay a dry paper towel in between the box and the lid. So I'm going to go ahead and just lay a little piece of dry paper towel in between. I'm going to find the right placement of my little ghost here. And my ghost kind of lost his eye. So again, you'd want to be sure you're totally done with this before it goes on the greenware shelf, because you guys know once it gets to bone dry, there's nothing else that you can do with it. But I'm going to fit my lid on there, and that just makes sure that the lid doesn't stick to the box as it's drying. Now notice I don't have a hole in the bottom of my box like I did with my rattle. That's because the box is not an enclosed form. The air can escape from here when it's in the kiln. Okay, but there's my little ghost box. I think it's looking pretty good. Of course, honestly, for the sake of the demo, I'm going kind of fast. I would go back in, I would do more carving on this guy, and I probably will do that before I totally finish him. But once I get him all painted, this box is gonna look pretty good, and I'm gonna be able to enjoy it and take it home and maybe even put some candy corns in there. I think that would be kind of fun. So I hope that you enjoy finishing up your box. Again, think about your craftsmanship. Make sure to remember to cut your lid in a way that will work, and make sure to avoid these sorts of cuts. And if you're unsure about that, come and see me. Make sure that when you are cutting with the knife, not the needle tool. Okay, you draw the line first, then cut the lid with the knife. Okay, and then before it goes onto the greenware shelf, it's going to have your name, and it's going to have the little dry paper towel, and then you will be finished. Thanks for watching this video, you guys. If you have questions, come see me. I'll see you next time. Bye.